Let me tell you a story about the mind. When I was 25 years old, I decided to write a book about emotional management. I opened my computer and there I was in front of that blank page. And suddenly my hands was blocked. I was blocked. And I became aware of that voice in my head saying, "Who do you think you are to write a book? You have been all your life a bad student. Your teachers told you that you would get nowhere. Who are you to write a book?" I was completely blocked. I couldn't write a single word. So I closed my eyes and I started to observe my own mind. I looked at that voice in my head and I could see my school teachers. I could see those thoughts telling me I was not worthy. And I continued observing, and suddenly I found silence. Then a rush of energy went up to my spine, to the top of my head, and I opened my eyes. And I felt full of energy. I started to write, and I could not stop. One word after another. 1 hour after another. And I was writing for 8 hours straight. In 4 months, I wrote my first book, The Power of the Observer. And since then, I've written more than 4 books. We all have an ego that tells us we cannot do. And we usually believe what the ego is telling because it lives in our mind. The ego judges and limits you, but its intention is to protect you from pain. The ego locks your potential just to avoid pain unless you take your power back. And the enemy of happiness is your ego. But this enemy is different from another enemy because this enemy wants to protect you from pain. But in order to avoid pain, it creates fear. And fear makes you feel separated from yourself, from others, from life. When the ego rules your mind, then you live in fear. The ego tries to protect you from emotional pain, but in that process, it creates suffering. And you cannot avoid pain. Pain is essential to life. Pain is the shadow of transformation. Pain pushes you to make changes. But every time you avoid pain, you create suffering. The ego didn't want me to write because it didn't want that I fail. It was a way of protecting me from failure and being judged again by people around me. Protecting me from pain prevent me from trying new things and fulfilling my dreams and purpose. In order to avoid pain, I felt fear of failure and judgment. And behind anxiety, dissatisfaction, and addictions, there is the ego. In all tradition, the ego has been considered the source of suffering. Some cultures describe it as the devil. The ego creates internal hell because it creates shame, self-rejection, procrastination, and dissatisfaction. And sometimes the ego can show up with positivity as a way to avoid painful emotions. And there are 9 types of ego, and one of them is the positive ego. But behind that positive ego hides fear and anxiety. The 9 types of ego are trying to avoid pain. And to avoid pain, they originate fear, self-rejection, anxiety. In order to not be judged by others, you judge yourself. So what is the solution? First, you need to understand what the ego is. The word ego means identity. It is the ideas you have made about yourself. It is the programming that is stored in your brain. And where does the ego live? Now, science has discovered where repeat the programming and constant thinking in the brain. It is called the neural default network. This is your ego. It is the part of the brain that is always thinking and remembering your identity. The ego is telling you who you are and how you should be. The neural default network is always thinking the same thoughts, and most of them are negative based on fear. Is the neural default network wrong? No, it's not. Is it the cause of all problems and conflicts? Yes, we might say yes. So if it's not bad, why does it create all our problems in life? Because we believe what it says is right. We let the ego rule our life, even if it's wrong. We usually believe every thought that comes into our mind, but many of these thoughts are borrowed from outside, and publicity knows this very well. You can introduce thoughts with subliminal messages, and when you adopt a thought into your mind, you follow it because you believe every thought that comes into your mind. That is how mass control occurs, by introducing thoughts in the mind. And we have received thoughts that we now believe are true, and many of them are harmful and limiting, but because they are in our minds, we believe them. The neural default network is not bad, but can be programmed with wrong ideas and harmful thoughts. And usually these ideas are based in self-rejection and avoiding negative emotions. The neural default network is where you store your automatic behaviors, belief, and self-talk. For example, if you didn't receive support when you felt sadness or insecurity, you probably learned to avoid those emotions. Now your ego will automatically repress those sensations to prevent them. And many people have learned self-rejection of emotions. And studies have shown that half of Western society will develop a mental health issue. Yes, this is one of two who will suffer from anxiety, depression, addiction, or other mental disorder. And the only mainstream solution is giving you pills that make the pharmaceutical industry win billions every year. But what is the real cause of this mental health crisis? It is poverty? It is the economic crisis? Studies found that wealthy people have even more risk of mental health issues. So, has nothing to do with economic hardships. All mental health issues are related to one thing: emotional disconnection. We have no idea of how to manage our negative emotions. We even don't understand what it means to manage emotions. We think it's to calm them or control them, but it's much more than that. Emotional management is a mystery for most people, but it's the only real solution for mental peace. The neural default network is the programming of your past. It's what you saw from your parents and society. And some programming can be correct, but other ideas are harmful based on avoiding negative emotions. And avoiding emotions is what gives the ego control over your life. So why does the ego program wrong ideas? The neural default network is the programming we made in childhood to survive. When you was a kid, you accept what your parents tell you. You adapt yourself to their way of being because you need them to survive. So if your parents tell you that showing anger is wrong, you will repress those emotions and become a nice person, more submissive, passive-aggressive, and powerless. Or if sadness was taboo at home, everyone has to show a positive attitude, you will learn to avoid feeling sad and disconnected from yourself and have more difficulty connecting with others. So behind all the problems that affect your life, there is emotional disconnection. But what is emotional disconnection? It's trying to avoid negative emotions like sadness, anger, and insecurity. But this is not something you decide consciously. You don't tell yourself sadness or anger is terrible. You just repress it automatically. And emotional disconnection is the cause of anxiety, depression, and addictions. But no one is telling you. They tell you it's a chemistry problem, But the chemistry is just a symptom, not a cause. Emotional disconnection produces more stress in the brain and nervous system, and stress affects the chemistry of the brain and the body. So, you hear wrong ideas from self-help books like your thoughts create your emotions. So you believe you can stop feeling your negative emotions being more positive. But thoughts don't create emotions. Thoughts can influence your emotions and give a meaning to your emotions. But emotions are activated faster in the brain than your thoughts. We have not understand the purpose of negative emotions. And if you want to eliminate anxiety, dissatisfaction, addictions, limiting beliefs, you need emotional management. All your internal issues come from the programming of your ego. Your ego was programmed to protect you and help you survive. It was created to adapt yourself to your environment, but it established walls that limit your power, creativity, and inner peace. The more you avoid negative emotions, the more the ego rules your life and limits your possibilities. The brain scanner has shown that most mental disorders have a high neural default network activity. It is like the mind is constantly worrying about the same issues. So how can you stop being controlled by the neural default network? With awareness. Every time you're present, the neural default network decreases and you have access to your creative power. Now you can create new results in your life. But even if it sounds easy, you can be present for a while and then return back to the same point. Why? Understanding why this happens is the secret to mastering your mind. Remember, the ego wants to protect you from pain. And the only way to avoid emotional pain is by decreasing your awareness. And when you have less attention, it's the neural default network that takes place. You go back to the same behavior, thoughts, and results. And the reason why you are not present is that you want to avoid your negative emotions. Because if you constantly live in the present, you will start to see all your emotions. You will start to see sadness, anger, and insecurity. So people usually take pills, drink alcohol, smoke, watch social network, or do anything that give a dopamine hit to avoid those internal sensations. And to master your mind and emotions, you need awareness to be completely present. And the etymology of the word present hides a deep meaning. It is divided in two words, pre, which means in front, and sent, which means feel. Being present is being in front of what you feel. Every time you're present, you are in front of your emotions. And most people are present when there is joy, fun, and pleasure in their life. But they stop to be present when they try to avoid those negative emotions, when there is sadness, insecurity, or anger. So our awareness decreases until we found another moment of pleasure, fun, and joy. And people get addicted to dopamine, social network, drugs, porn, because they want to avoid their negative emotions. And you can do it for a while without noticing the consequences. But if it keeps that way, all types of problems start to appear. Food addiction, drug addiction, sex addiction, porn addiction, conflict with your partner, procrastination, anxiety, dissatisfaction. And all of this shares the same root, avoiding your negative emotions. Every time you avoid the negative emotions, you live through the ego. You live through the same programming of the past and create the same results. Because the ego just repeats the same programming you got over and over. Avoiding negative emotion doesn't eliminate them. It just makes you unaware. They're still there. But now they are expressed unconsciously. And it is like driving a car blind. It is inevitable to cause accidents. Most programming of people's mind has been based on rejecting negative emotions. We have not been educated to understand how to use negative emotions. But how can we find happiness if we do not understand how our brain works? Even the self-help industry has created more confusion than help. Thousands of self-help books are coming out yearly. But people still have the same issues. How many books do you need to learn to find inner peace? The problem is that none of them give you the knowledge that you need. Emotional management. And saying positive affirmation is not much different than taking drugs. It gives you some dopamine, it boosts your mood for a while, but you still have the same issues. Happiness has nothing to do with being positive and smiling in the mirror. Happiness depends on how you manage negative emotions. So you don't need to learn how to have more positive emotions. You must learn how to manage negative emotions. And then positive emotions will come by themselves. If you want to make plants flourish, you don't pull the stem. You take care of the roots, and then the plant will grow. Negative emotions are the most devalued aspect of ourselves. Every self-help book tells you how to be more joyful, but not how to use sadness, anger, and insecurity to your advantage. Negative emotions exist with a purpose. You need them, and they need you. That is why emotional management is the most powerful tool you have to create real happiness, self-esteem, fulfilling relationship, live with purpose, and achieve wisdom. To have mastery over your mind, to go beyond the ego and stop being limited by the ego, and create new results and access to your potential, you need to learn how to manage your emotions. And emotional management activates a different pathway in the brain. I call it the creative neural network, which activates the frontal lobe and the hippocampus. When the creative neural network is activated, the default neural network activity decreases. You are no longer dominated by past programming. Now you have creative power. You are no longer attached by your thoughts, beliefs, or automatic behavior. You have freedom to take new actions, new behaviors, and generate new results in your life. And that is the state that allowed me to break that limiting belief and start to write the book. Behind those limiting beliefs was a protection against pain. But when I connected with my pain and observed it, I activated the creative neural network. Now I had the power and freedom to create new results in my life. The creative neural network allows you to access to a state of inner peace, communicate effectively, and create deeper connection with others. Have focus to pursue your purpose and achieve wisdom as a meditation master. Every time you activate the creative neural network, you have focus, peace, and energy to create the reality as you desire. So how to activate the creative neural network? There are a few ways. The oldest has been meditation. And even though I love meditation, I am aware of some of the traps people can fall in. New studies around mindfulness have shown that it creates more dissociation and anxiety in at least 20% of people who practice it. And it takes much longer, that has been said, to create changes in the brain. The reason is because 99% of meditation apps and course doesn't tell you how to manage emotion. And if meditation could have another name, is emotional management, because the true purpose of meditation at the brain level is emotional management. It's being able to calm your emotions, not be reactive, and choose at every moment your actions and decisions. Practicing mindfulness can be similar to searching the hotel where you are lodged in a new city without guidance, without a map, and without knowing the name of the street of the hotel. It is like moving in the darkness, no clarity. The emotional management you will learn here is like having a map of the inner world that gives you a complete understanding of how you can calm your emotions and mind in just a matter of minutes. And these techniques have shown to reduce by 800% stress in a matter of minutes, because it gives you a complete clarity of how to manage difficult emotions. So instead of giving you the fish, it teaches you how to fish. Because the goal of emotional management is to you become your best therapist. Think about how much time, money, and issues can solve you to become your best therapist. It means no more pills, no more anxiety, no more depression, no more addiction, and no more looking outside for a solution. And that is what I want to give you. The emotional management science you will learn here is like having a GPS that gives you all the shortcuts to calm your mind and create the 4 areas of happiness: self-esteem, fulfilling relationship, purpose, and wisdom. To access to a state of focus, confidence, and power is necessary to manage your emotions. And as you will learn in this program, negative emotions hide a massive potential if you know how to use them into your advantage. That is why the emotional management system you will learn here is the ultimate therapy, the ultimate meditation, and the ultimate skill to transform your brain and develop the 4 powers to create happiness: confidence, effective communication, coherent action, and consciousness. And that is why I created the happiness program to teach you how to have complete mastery over your mind and emotions. And this program trains you to become your best therapist. You need the number 1 skill to stop the ego from dominating your life and remove addiction, limiting thoughts, and anxiety. And if you want to create new results in your life, feel inner peace, heal emotion, build healthy relationship, live with purpose, and become a wise human being, you need emotional management. The emotional management you will learn here has the same effect on the brain as thousands of hours of meditation practice, because it directly activated the creative neural network, the frontal lobe and the hippocampus. And one is related to wisdom, like creativity, calmness, discernment, empathy, and the other is related to emotional healing and transforming emotions into understanding and knowledge. So when the frontal lobe is activated, the neural default system decreases and you have much more capacity to create your reality and give a different direction to your life. You get access to the infinite field of possibilities. Instead of being limited by your old behaviors, reaction, and self-talk, you can now create new results. You can experience confidence, communicate effectively, take the actions that lead you to accomplish your purpose, and become a wise human being. And there are 2 ways to experience reality: through the ego or through awareness. And one leads to the same results in your life, and the other opens a dimension of creativity and growth. One leads to anxiety and the other to happiness. The happiness program is divided into 4 levels: self-esteem, relationship, purpose, and wisdom. And at each level, you will develop a mastery over emotional management to become confident, assertive, focused, and mindful. So I hope you are excited to learn the powerful knowledge of emotional management to become your best therapist and say goodbye to all mental issues. I see you inside, and have a happy day.